delighted. I am absolutely delighted to be in front of you today. Obviously, it wasn't without taking the plane, but I cannot change that. Thank you to IAB, OMA, Gay, Elizabeth for letting me the opportunity to share with you a bit more of the international context about what has been brilliantly introduced by the two people before me here on stage. I've been told that I had to go fast, so obviously I will not, I will spare you the 5 or 10 minutes of that joke that I am usually using before presenting this. Viewed impression out of home. This is what it stands for. You're not obliged to quote me on that, but that's how we pronounce our name, and we define ourselves as a global digital out of home marketplace. It's going to be short on view. Please don't leave the room right now. We position ourselves as an independent SSP exchange, which is built to connect both supply and demand in the digital out-of-home dimension, and we are absolutely focusing on programmatic in this context. We also try to define ourselves as thought leaders, trying to own what is now quite a well-known industry research, which is called State of the Nation. It's been the fourth year that we've done it. It's usually covering 5 markets. Australia is in the pool, but we've got the US, France, Germany, the UK, and your market. What we are usually adding is 1 additional market every year, which is different. China 2 years ago, Spain last year, Brazil next year. So if you want to see me on stage dancing, it's going to be in Sao Paulo in September. Now, what is a bit specific about our platform is that the tech is built by programmatic experts, which have been obviously also fully immersed into digital out-of-home. So we are building something which is truly bespoke to try to solve the basic equation, how to maximize programmatic revenue when you have screens. And we are live and trading in 22 markets, so we must be doing something not so bad. And we are connecting to 30,000 screens. Actually, it's a bit more now, like closer to 40,000, and connected to 44 DSP globally. Since we are just an SSP, it's making it easier to sign a lot of contracts with all the DSPs. They see us as a go-to partner, not a competitor. Footprint, markets, partners. I was told to go fast, right? So I cannot go faster. Programmatic digital out-of-home, setting the scene. So this is where we are talking about the global trends. And because we are also talking about your markets, because we have specifically investors, so people who are actually spending money from media agencies or chief marketing officers who are also having a control of how and when they spend their budgets. These are the guys who are asking questions. Every year, it varies between 1,000 to 1,200. So we are talking to a lot of people. And here is what it's all about. So before that, I'm going to set the scene about the markets, right? The markets, well, you know, guys, you know that. But just so that we are all talking about the same things. These are US dollars. The black bars are how much digital advertising is spent on a yearly basis, and that's the projection. So 2024, you can see almost $696 billion. That's a huge amount of money. The money that you're getting online, offline in your industry right now on a global basis, 42 billion, sorry. So just a fraction. And the name of the game is how you're going to be able to get part of the rest. And there is a lot of good news there. Shifting changes in how the media are consumed, some offline media losing momentum, linear TV losing momentum, and there is a lot of money which is up for grabs. So how are we going to do this? Well, we actually believe that since this volume of digital ad spend is still growing, and is growing right now 70% of the total ad spend, digital 70%, going to be growing to 72%, what we do believe is that programmatic is the right point to really get access to that. I'm going to put it very simply at this stage. You are not in the programmatic game. You are just fighting for the scraps within the 42 billions. You are in the programmatic games. You have a chance to get more of the money that's going to be shifting from TV and from the other digital channel. Okay? That's it. Now, programmatic usage is on the rise. which means that more and more people are spending money because each time the black bar goes, there is a programmatic usage that is growing behind. Because it's a matter of scale, a matter of data, a matter of being more efficient, everything that has been said on stage before me. And frankly, this is what we are seeing, right? 32% of the media plans for campaign place in the last 18 months on a global basis have been including programmatic out of home. Actually, it's even better in your market. You will see that in a few minutes. But what we believe is that the global number is going to be growing from 32 to 40%. 1/3 of the exec, so the ones who are actually spending money, media agencies or brands, are actually saying that they're going to be incrementally move their budget onto spending more in programmatic out of home in 2024. These are good news. As long as you're doing programmatic, obviously. But these are good news because that means that they've been using and they feel comfortable about it. Now, 83% of advertisers believe that programmatic out of home offers the most innovative opportunities over any other media channels. And you've seen the graphs. If you see how the other media channels are evolving in terms of share, programmatic out of home is one of the fastest growing segments. Above TV, above digital. So what are the trends? These were big numbers to try to put meaning the scope there. What are the trends? It was actually mentioned, and what we are seeing on a global basis is that programmatic out of home is actually perceived at 81% for performance-led campaign, or good to address performance-led campaign, and at 78% for brand-led campaigns. So that's a massive great news because that means that if you are trading your screens programmatically, all of a sudden you are eligible to have a discussion on a performance-led brief. Before that, that wasn't really the case. And that means that all of a sudden, you can actually command a share of a much bigger pie. That's the first topic we were talking about. These are the numbers, and these are very interesting. Now, why is it moving in that direction? What is it positive? What are the metrics that are making it very interesting from an efficiency standpoint? Well, because for 62% of the respondents, it increased sales. That's a bit important, right? 52% impact on website traffic, 49% increase in performance plan with other digital channels. We're going to talk about that. That's absolutely essential for the future. But 1 out of 2 is actually thinking that it's even better when combined with another digital channel. In-flight optimization, that is not taking a cognac after you take off. This is simply the capacity when the campaign is launched to be able to further optimize, changing the creative, changing at which part of the day you're going to be displaying your ads, or which day of the week. And that's actually being able to tune your campaign based on the data, based on how it is working. You have the control of that. And last but not least, being able to do all the surveys and studies on the brand awareness. Is that really working? And obviously, whether that's meaning driving the purchase considerations. You've got the global number, you've got the Australian number, you've got the German, Spanish, French, UK, and US numbers in terms of, according to the guys, again, who are spending money within media agencies and brands, what is the proportion of these guys who are bringing some new budget when they are spending in programmatic out of home? 15%. You are in the leading part across Europe. Better than the German, better than the Spanish. Now, not as good as the French, I'm sorry, désolé, but that's fine. But what is important, though, is that then if you are trying to find out how these 15% are spent, or better said, who is actually booking the 15%? And here we're touching one of the points that you are actually raising, which means that it is not clear in absolute change in terms of media agencies, markets, whether they are mature, whether they have concentrated the teams between the programmatic team, the out-of-home team, and so on and so forth. And you still have agencies where all this decisioning is not centralized within one team. And this is why I think the numbers are not yet at the level where they should be. Example, in 22% of the case, these are dedicated programmatic out-of-home teams, which is great. In 17% of the case for your market, it's digital programmatic team. That's good. That means that here we are talking about guys who are usually spending on social, on video, on display. And these guys are bringing new money to your segment. That's great. And 7% on the main out-of-home teams. If you want to have a view as to what kind of category of advertisers are actually spending on a global basis versus this market, well, you can see there is no big kind of thing that we can say, except that fifth position, you've got the government kind of campaigns, which is not in the global ranking before the 13th position, but the rest is pretty much aligned. Obviously, you don't need to take vacation as much as the others because you are just there yet, or better said, you need to because you are third and they are in the 6th position, but pretty much no big kind of things here, I would say. So if we try to summarize, and that's not going to be drastically different versus what we've heard. It's just meaning a way to look at this from a different angle. The first one is programmatic out-of-home is very popular in Australia, yes, but it has room to grow. Still, in the more mature market in Europe, Northern Europe, like Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, programmatic out-of-home is between 20 to 25% and above that in some markets of the DOOH revenue. Here, I think it's much more between the 8 and the 12%. So you can easily double that. We were talking about the fact that on a global basis, 32% have been obviously adding programmatic out-of-home in a out-of-home campaign here in this market. 37%. It's 5% more than the global number of 32% I was quoting early on today. The fact that it's good for performance and brand really helps you to really understand that now 100% of the briefs are addressable, and traffic to store, traffic to web is one of the main drivers to assess the programmatic digital out-of-home performance. So what we also very glad to share is that each time we've been asking the question, are you going to be spending more? What we've understood is that the advertisers in your country are actually planning to have plus 39% in terms of new budget allocation. And that is, quickly so that everybody can understand that exactly here, that's the 12, here we go, 22 plus 17. These are the 39%. Now, the future. Nobody wants to talk about the past, although we can learn a lot about the past. Personally, no, just kidding, let's moving. The future growth levers, dynamic creative optimization, that was also raised a few minutes ago. What we can say about that? Well, we can say that this is something that you guys should heavily be thinking about. Why? Simply because it's working. With the demise of the cookies, what we can say is that 41% of the consumers, that's not me, that's McKinsey who says this, an Irish guy who has quite a lot of traction, 41% of consumers say that they don't want advertisers to use tracking cookies. Okay? And 70% of UK consumers are more likely to remember a contextually relevant ad. I am assuming that if you would be asking the question in many, many markets, the percentage will not be too dissimilar to some extent. And this is what it's all about. With DCO, it's about context. It's about relevancy in context. To go very quickly on these ads, you've got Samsung trying to push their Galaxy Watch 4, and which is a watch where you can measure, meaning how much you are running, hiking, biking, everything. And what they are is trying to put that into context into a city on a bus shelters to say, well, actually, because we are in Hackney, which is a part of London, all the guys in Hackney have been actually running average 6.39 kilometers today. Don't take the bus, run. Okay. But that means advanced data sources makes it even more relevant. Now, it could be things like stock data or inventory management system that's going to tell you, well, less than 30% of the product have been sold, and we're the 10 of the months, you need to be pushing this product with a discount. And that's automated, and that's good. And obviously, you can have not so much advanced data. You can have some basic standard data, put an index, weather, traffic, well, you get it, right? There is a bit of magic here. What is very interesting is the dynamic messaging that change based on the context. So it's about online betting. Paris Saint-Germain against Bayern Munich, right? And it's trying to tease with the odds and everything. But all of a sudden, you've got a change in the game, and meaning the game is actually changing. It has an impact on the odds. And this is what is absolutely good about it, is that you can have dynamic message, which makes it even more relevant. Now, you're going to tell me, well, that's a nightmare to create, right? You need to change the ads on the fly. No, you need to have ads which have been done, not ads, thousands of ads, just to be able to match every basic situation. Here, this is an ad where you can have different kind of logic. You can have in which country, which can obviously drive a logic of language, but not just. You have the date, you can have the time, you can have the language, you can have the conditions, and you've got one creative which is always on the same basis, which has been created on the fly to be able to fit to the situation. And that's the data that's going to be commenting why that is going to be this ads and not this one. Smart. That's tech. So if you want to really be clear about why it's going to be a big move, it's about contextually relevant, dynamic message, streamlined ad creation and delivery process, and creativity. Okay, it's a new canvas, and this is pretty useful. 3D, creative. Things have changed. When I started to hear about 3D, you need to add a pair of glasses. Anyway, I am not that old. Now it's no longer the case, guys. What we can say is that 3D advertising boosts conversion by 40%. Excuse me, it's not 10%, it's 40%. That means that you have a massive impact. And obviously you can see, you don't need to have some massive screens to start to do that. And it has an impact because it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be calling the attention. And we can say that in many, many cases, it's going to create an immersive brand experience to some extent, making advertising at iconic location reach even further. Meaning you all have seen, meaning these kind of videos of Times Square or Piccadilly Circus, where you got a car which seems to be going out of the screen, right? That's impacting. And therefore, meaning it's really helping to reach some audiences which are not always easy to reach. And this is also a way to express all the art and creativity. Multi-channel integration. I think that's the most promising trend, and you've been talking about that, so you're not going to be surprised by this. But just to give you a bit more perspective on it. This is why we are living in a world where we have a greater chance now with programmatic digital out-of-home to bring the digital screens into the multi-channel approach. Because we are in a logic where you can easily have that approach for the media agencies who are really trying to have an omni-channel approach. Out-of-home doesn't have to keep staying in a silo being booked by separate team. If you keep doing that, you will not be able to tap into the big digital budget. But by including digital out-of-home, which has its own merits, you're going to be able to achieve that. And by the virtue of the programmatic trading and the fact that it's traded on a CPM, cost per mil, you're going to be able to actually integrate all this all together. It's absolutely obvious that the deprecation of the cookie is also forcing the media agency are changing the way they're doing their targeting. And here, for example, you've got some underlying logic, which is location. Lat long. Lat long helps you to see where the device is. You know where that is. It's not moving. Desktop, that's when the person is at his desk, when it's going back or doing some bit of shopping, and he's at home. lat long is the common denominator for all these screens. What we were trying to ask here is, okay, on a multi-channel logic, is there any trend, or do you believe you who are spending money, whether some channels are combining better depending on whether you are going after a branded campaign or performance campaign? Here are the global numbers, right? Display combines very, very nicely on both sides. Social media, a bit more if you're on a branded campaign, and so on. And for your market, you can see pretty much aligned. What we can say that the average campaign who is in a multi-channel approach, meaning where the budget is not going just on one approach, is, in average, 2.6 times more efficient. So there is no question, right? You need to move on that. And obviously, companies with a strong multi-channel marketing see 9.5% increase in annual revenue on average. Obviously, if the campaigns are more efficient, you get more sales. So in essence, multi-channel campaigns are key to deliver profitable outcome. And I would say that having programmatic out of home in a multi-channel approach in a media plan is going to be driving clear incremental value on the return on investment, and will also be boosting the offline outcomes, which means your campaign is going to be more efficient, which means also that advertisers will be happier. The last point, I don't know how much I'm doing on time, but I'm assuming that we're good. Okay. I don't know why I was asking that now. Sustainability is, I think, the fourth key driver we need to keep in mind here, right? In terms of how it's going to have an impact. Why? But simply because you can see, right, 80% of consumers will favor brands that are actively working to reduce their carbon emissions. And what does that mean? That means that they are expecting brands to actually control their supply chain. Not just the direct supply chain, but the scope 3 supply chain, which is the wider supply chain, which means you guys who are potentially having screens are going to be surfacing their ads. Or the platform like our platform who are going to be programmatically distributing these ads. 81% of people surveyed expect companies to be environmentally, very hard to say for a French guy, environmentally conscious in their advertising and communication. What does that mean? So I need to bring you on this slide, probably the most complex of the day, but I'm sure you're going to do it, guys. If you try to compare emissions, you need to also be taking into account two things, right? How many people you got in front of a screen? Because at the end of the day, if brands are doing an ad campaign, this is to have an impact. And the impact could be measured in how many impressions against an audience. On a mobile, there's going to be just one person. On a screen in the street, potentially a lot. So if you are taking this with what is the CO2, the gram of CO2 per year per audience impression, that was a survey that was done by KPMG in France. What do you see? You see that outdoor advertising, if we take into account the audience impression, is actually fairly efficient. Much more efficient than radio, and you've got the ratio of the impact here. Much more efficient than online, more efficient than TV, and obviously miles efficient, meaning much better efficient than mailing. You need to cut trees, everything. Well, you get the point. So bad, terrible. So this is really, really important. And the problem we have in this industry is that when you have people who are actually looking at the screen saying, oh yeah, but that's a lot of electricity consumed and we could live without that. Yeah, but the point they need to understand that the brands, we still have to do campaigns. We still have obviously to promote their product services. So they will still be doing that. And if they do that on other channel, it's going to have an even further negative impact. Are you with me, guys? Okay, good. And we've tried at VIOOH, meaning to really do that and to really get into the details. And we worked with, say, DARA to really be able to understand from a programmatic standpoint what is our carbon emission impact. And we are 18% below the overall programmatic open web benchmark. And this is not just out of home, this is all the media, social, search, display, video. So we want obviously to go further down on that, and we want to measure ourselves, so to measure this industry traded programmatically against the other programmatic channel, because that wasn't programmatic, that was everything, online, offline, okay, you get that. And we want to do this to be able to actually have a very clear message, because it's absolutely important. Quickly, a few points meaning were raised in terms of how we can get things improving, how we can get more money flowing to the industry. Well, response is here. More cost efficiency from the market. In yellow, that's your market. Green, that's the global number. And I'm going to come to this one in a minute. More tangible metrics around the channel to demonstrate value, proximity data, more audience data, which obviously going to be addressed with Move to, and so on and so forth. What is quite important is that now people understand that from a data standpoint, they understand a bit how it works. Obviously, Move to going to help in this market, but it's becoming more on how we're going to be able to measure the cost efficiency of it. And that's a great news. That means that they do consider, because if you don't care, you don't want to have a lower cost. You're not going to be using the medium. Here, that's a great news. They are asking for that. Because that means that they want to consider the medium, but they want to have a medium which is going to be efficient. And this is where we come back to what we were saying. The price is not going to be the point. If the medium return and higher return on investment, if it's efficient, and if obviously it has a greater impact, brand and performance, price is going to go up or going to be sustained, because it's about return on investment. That's it. Thank you. Question? No? So for the very unlucky guy that's going to be asking the question, any questions? Before anybody says, I'm married, I've got 3 kids. Now you can go.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great.